In today's video, we'll be looking at how our leggy tomato plants have got on in the polytunnel where we planted them about a month ago. We'll also be talking about whether it's determinant, indeterminate, and what the next steps are to get them to grow nice and healthy. Now, for those who watch my videos will know that about a month ago we planted up some tomatoes. It was a bit early for them to actually go out into the polytunnel, but they were all getting very leggy. And what we did was if you look at this closely, you'll see that there's lots of little hairs coming off of the tomato stalk. And what we did was we planted these so that actually they were planted all the way up to the first set of true leaves into the ground, so that the roots could come off of this stalk and actually grow up. So let's have a quick check in and see how they've all been doing. So here we are with our tomato plants, and as you can see, that since they were put in the ground down here, they've actually put on a massive amount of growth and they're all looking really healthy. Now, they did struggle for the first week or so while they're still establishing their roots, and the leaves went off a little bit yellow where they were seeking out some phosphorus and some magnesium from the actual soil, but they're all really growing up really tall now. So, and we're starting to wind them around our little cords to actually get them to actually grow. Now, in terms of tomatoes, there's as many ways and tips about growing tomatoes and the way that people do it as there are different tomato varieties. So I'm just going to share with you how I do mine, and it's always worked for me. Obviously, we put them up via these cords, and then we need to determine whether they're actually the tomato plants that we're growing are determinant or indeterminate. Now, determinate varieties, as the name would suggest, it's already been predetermined by the plant how tall they're going to grow, and they normally grow between about 2 and 3 feet tall. They will also produce most of their fruit, or pretty much all their fruit, within a very short period of time. Whereas indeterminate, as the name would suggest, it's not been determined how tall they'll grow. They will just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. In fact, commercial tomato growers who very often use hydroponics to actually feed their tomatoes will grow indeterminate tomatoes up to 10 plus feet tall in large polytunnels. So they will continue to grow. When you do want them to stop growing, you just pinch out the tops and then they'll bush out. But one of the things you need to make sure that you're doing is with indeterminate tomatoes, if you want them to go up as far as possible, is I always pick out the suckers. And those are the little shoots that appear between the leaves and the actual main plant. So here we have one of our tomato plants, and as you can see, if you look here, there's between what is a set of leaves and the main branch, there's this little tiny other stem that's coming out from the side here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and we're just going to break that off. Now, when they're small like this, you can actually just break them off by hand. If they get a bit thicker, I'd advise using a pair of clippers just to clip them off so you don't damage the stalk. Now, you can either throw these away and put them in your compost, or if you're short on tomato plant, put a little bit of rooting powder on the bottom, put that in a little pot. That will grow into a new tomato plant for you. So here's another one over here. You can see it's just on the stem there. I'm just going to break that one off, and again, that is potentially another little tomato plant. Just put that in some compost and away it will go. Another one here, and then we will continue to do this and break off these little suckers from the actual plant until they've grown up as tall as they need to be. Now, down here on this plant, you'll see there's some white powder sprinkled around, and that's because there is quite a lot of ants down there. Now, ants, not necessarily a pest and a bug for your tomatoes. They won't actually attack your tomato plants, but they will undermine some of the soil and loosen up all the soil underneath the plants. It will affect them. But one of the other issues you have very often with ants is that what they will do is they will look like they're attacking greenfly on your plants. And you look at them and think, oh, they're crawling all over those greenfly, they'll get rid of those. But that's not quite the case of what's happening. What's actually happening, there's a symbiotic relationship going on there. Now, ants will be there, and what they will do is they will actually defend the greenfly and the aphids from things like ladybug larvae or ladybug or ladybird, ladybug, depending on where you are, which continent you're on. Now, those larvae are prolific aphid eaters, and they will just suck through loads and loads of aphids. So you want those in your garden as much as possible. But what will actually happen is the ants will attack those and get rid of those, and so they're actually harvesting and farming the aphids, because what the aphids will do is as they suck on your plants, they'll produce sort of like a sweet like secretion from their body, and then the ants harvest that secretion and take it down into their nest. So they're a bit like, if you imagine, they're a bit like a protection racket. They go around protecting the actual aphids from any other predators that are trying to get hold of them, but in return they want some payment, and that payment is a secretion that the aphids produce that the ants use as a food source. So if you see ants all around your plants and with aphids, they're actually working in tandem. They're not trying to get rid of the aphids at all. So for the time being, we've just put a little bit of ant powder down just to keep them under control. Down here we have one of our plants, which is the Lemonito plant, tomato plant. Now you can see that these have got the suckers on them as well, but this is a determinate variety. So this will only grow to about 2 to 3 feet tall, and because it's only going to grow a certain height, we want it to be as bushy as possible. So on these ones, we'll leave the suckers in place. Now this little plant down here, this tomato plant, having said there are only determinate and indeterminate tomatoes, this one is an exception to the rule. It's the Orangu tomato plant, and this is what they classify as a semi-determinate variety. Now a semi-determinate variety, again, will grow to a certain height and it will produce all its fruit, it will draw in a short period of time, but then after it's produced its fruit, it will carry on growing. So then it will carry on up. So for the time being, we'll leave this all with its suckers in place, and then what we're going to do is we'll see later on in the season if we can encourage it, once it's produced its first set of tomatoes, to grow on and see if we can get it to produce any more. But for the time being, we're treating that as a determinate variety, but as I say, it is classified as a semi-determinate because of its growing habit after it actually fruits. So that's how all our tomato plants are doing. So we nursed them through the first week, but now they're all thriving. The tallest ones here are now getting on for 1.5 foot, nearly 2 foot tall, and everything's looking good. And the actual trunks, the sort of stems on them, have gone from about this to really nice thick stems on them. So now we're looking forward to a good tomato harvest. What I'll do is, just to finish off, I will put the link to the video when we actually first planted these up, and all about how we planted these up for you to watch. And then what we'll also do is we'll just have a quick scan around all the tomatoes so you can see them all in more detail. So working our way around, we have our Fort Cook Early, then we have our San Lorenzo, then we have our Cocktail Crush. Down here we have our Bull X Beef. Now this is one that we actually, the stem was broken on it. I think we might have damaged it when we put it in. So we actually just folded the old one over and put it into the soil, and that's actually grown up as well. But you can see the thickness of the stems there now. Then we have our Crimson Crush, and then we have our Brandy Boy, which is a nice beefsteak tomato. And then down here we have Oh Happy Days, and this one is our Black Moon. Over here we have the one we were looking at earlier, which is our semi-determinate Orangu. This one is a Bumblebee, Golden Bumblebee one. This is our Indigo Pear, looking good. This is our Lemonito one. This is our Tutti Frutti one. This one again is a Yellow Submarine. This is another one where the leaves, similar to the Brandy Boy over there, very different types of leaves on these ones. The Yellow Submarine one, not very, more, if you look at these ones, these are more like tomato type sort of leaves, these sort of frilled leaves. These ones are a lot broader leaf on them. This is our Sun Gold Cherry one, and then finally we got our Sweet Millions one. And down here at the end, we've got all our pepper plants growing.